Like the worst spin-off of 28 Days Later, I've analyzed the first 28 days of my content creation journey, and in particular, looking at whether the analytics or the metrics that VidIQ or OpusClip give you are actually telling you anything valuable. Let's get into it. Like all good millennials, I decided to start creating content as part of a crash out or a midlife crisis. And I did so for two main reasons. First, I think my dog was getting a little bit concerned for me, always ranting at her. And second, I realized that a lot of the business content that's out there on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok is not designed for technicians. Technicians get coding, they don't get business skills. And what I found is that's where they need the most help because they haven't experienced that training or received that training. And this is the same motivation why I started the Technician's MBA on Substack. So I decided that the start of this would be revitalizing it to be this channel, to be this brand, and start creating this short form video content. To say I plan my content is generous. I always knew I was going to go for this kind of yapper style of content, and I don't really have much of a process around it. And that kind of works for me because what happens is I either get annoyed by something or I get inspired by something, and then I put it into a note. Big note that I have on my phone, and once a week I sit down, I record a whole bunch of videos, and then I edit and schedule them. Now, the challenge is I run a moderately successful consultancy in the AI tech and data space, and so I don't really have a lot of time to be able to devote to content. I can't sit down and be editing all the time or going through and clipping. And combine that with another stereotypical millennial crash out midlife crisis thing, I'm starting to train for a triathlon. So time is not my friend. So when I saw OpusClips and VidIQ, I thought, well, this could actually make it reasonable for me to do so. So what do these platforms tell you? I tell you what they don't tell you is when you record 10 videos in absolute poor quality, which is what I did the first time I sat down and did this. Anyway, vidIQ is predominantly YouTube focused for those who aren't aware, and it gives you title, SEO, and AI review of your content and scores it accordingly. OpusClips or OpusClip is slightly more broad. It can do a whole bunch of platforms, but again, it does the subtitling, the clipping, things like that to help you like create the content faster, and also has some AI B-roll stuff, which I don't use, but it's a nice touch. But what it also does is it gives you a viral score out of 100, and it grades you across 4 dimensions. And whilst that's interesting, and it initially caught me going, oh, this is a good video, as I've gone through, I'm beginning to question more and more whether it is. But the scheduling for Opus and being able to distribute across 3 platforms really kind of sold me a lot more on it. vidIQ is useful for videos like this, where I can set up a lot more testing, set up thumbnails. They both have value, and even if we ignore the shoehorning in of AI into their offering, they're still valuable in what they provide. It's just my question is whether the additional stuff they provide is actually useful or harmful to micro creators like myself. So even though I didn't get Opus or vidIQ for their scoring or prediction stuff, I'm a statistician. You give me a claim or data or some metric, I'm going to want to test it. And so that's what I'm kind of looking at doing now, because at the end of it, even though these platforms are valuable for their core offering, is this something that is going to be helpful or hurtful to micro creators like myself? I kind of want to start testing that out. And even though it's only 28 days of content, it can start to give us a picture as to the value of these additional offerings. Like I said, right now I don't have enough data to make any hard and fast conclusions, but I can start having a look, having a play, and starting to understand where the value in these additional metrics lies. So let me start by showing you the performance of all my videos over the past 28 days across all 3 platforms. And you can see here The platform where I have the highest number of views is TikTok, followed by Instagram and then YouTube. But what I've noticed is funny in a way is each of these are based around their own platform average. They are inherently different. A video that performs well on Instagram will perform well on YouTube. But I think together you can kind of see a pattern where it's starting to increase. But to really understand it, I think we have to split it by platform. And when we do that, and we overlay some benchmarks, we can see YouTube, the average is much lower, Instagram is then second, and TikTok is the highest. Even though TikTok doesn't have any massive breakout hits, and after the first week of content, I was put in 200 view jail, and there was a week where the views were down really, really badly, you can see that the consistency of TikTok is generating a higher number of views, but it's a lot more variable, and there's very little we can learn about TikTok. We don't have enough signal from TikTok to understand, does this perform well, does this perform badly? And if we look at where we perform better as time goes on, that is Instagram. So if we use a log scale, which helps kind of dampen out the highs and dampen out the lows, you can see that Instagram is slightly trending upwards. YouTube really isn't doing much, and TikTok's just staying static. So I'm really not going to talk much about TikTok moving forward because it's not really changing that much. But what I started to recognize from the YouTube stats, and I wanted to investigate, is I noticed my shorter videos were performing better on YouTube. And I wasn't quite sure about Instagram. So if we switch this to length of video, you can see that, and especially on this log scale where we, again, dampen out the highs and bring the lows up, so it gives a better indication of pattern. You can see that the shorter videos on YouTube do better than the longer videos on YouTube. But on Instagram, it doesn't seem to matter as much. Now, if I only had these, like this kind of information, I would be slightly lost, because this would tell me that I'd need to create short videos on YouTube and Instagram, and it doesn't really tell us much. It gives us patterns, but doesn't give us anything actionable. So what I did was I went through all the videos I've done, and I went through and said, what was my tone, what was my intention, and forgive the labels overlapping here. But I broke it down into educational, rant, direct, challenging, inspirational, and provocative. And YouTube has no difference. It doesn't matter the type of content it is, per se. Educational does seem to do better, provocative does quite well, and direct has more variability, but rant is okay too. Whereas Instagram, I'm noticing that rant and provocative are the ones where I'm getting the 1,000 views, the viral hits, or the relatively viral hits. But that's that kind of attention grabbing thing. So it seems like, from this analysis, if we ask the question, what does it tell us? Well, it tells us something, right? But it doesn't necessarily help us with future content creation. Because I don't want to just be a ranty, provocative, clickbaity channel. I want to actually do other content too. So what do we improve? And this is where I think these metrics can start to really kind of come in and play their value. Because what do we improve to make our videos better? Is it just make them shorter? There's not enough information here. So now let's look at what VidIQ and Opus give us to see whether that can help us out. So let's look at Opus first. For each video, they give you a score out of 100 and a grade around each of your content, around your hook, your flow, your value, your trend. And the problem is, if we go back to our stats, at this volume, it tells us nothing, right? The score tells us nothing. If we look at the hook or the flow or the value or the trend, they don't, again, really tell us anything. There's nothing significant here. I mean, there might be a fact of the trend on YouTube has something slightly more. And potentially, but the main thing that kind of stands out to me is there's very few where it's less than an A minus. Now, I wish I could tell you that I am creating absolutely banger content off the rip. I doubt this is true, right? I doubt that the content I'm making is an A grade all the time. And it's kind of that point, right? That this isn't valuable if it's not giving us distinction or changes. So it really kind of raises a question. But if we go to vidIQ next, they give you two main scores, right? This is my vidIQ dashboard. No problem showing it. It gives you title and it gives you content. So when we go back to our dashboard and we switch to vidIQ, title, same story really. It's not really very helpful to what we're looking at learning or doing. But if we look at review, on the other hand, there could be something here, right? When we notice it, and the viral slightly distorts the trend, what I'm noticing is when the review score gets higher across YouTube and Instagram, the spread of the data points gets lower. So an 85 review on YouTube, the spread is lower than, say, a 75 or a 65. And the same is true on Instagram. But then, like I say, the viral ones kind of throw it out, right? With this one, which is the career gap or the smoke screen, or again, career gap again, right? So this could be something to look out for the future. And if I was looking at any of these metrics, I think the review score is kind of telling me more about what I can expect or where I can expect to see it. Doesn't tell us anything about virality, though. My favorite question of any analysis, any reporting is, so what? Where does this leave us? What has this told us? So what have we found? Well, for one, YouTube shorts need to be short. The shorter they are, the better they perform, and I think that's either with audience retention or their algorithm or something. Instagram, again, it has to capture attention. Length of video doesn't matter as much. I know that the scroll rate matters quite a lot because it tells you so much on the dashboard. But seemingly the content that does well on Instagram is a good rant or something provocative. TikTok, I think it's just happy to be there. No matter what I publish, it gets 200 views. No matter the likes, engagement, doesn't really change that much either. And I think the last part is the vidIQ, OpusClip metrics are about as useful as a chocolate ashtray. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't use OpusClip or vidIQ. I'm going to continue using them because the value they give is more than just these metrics. I'm just a little bit irked that these metrics could distract me, and did distract me for a while, or could distract another person starting out in their journey using these tools. Do they have value for larger creators? Maybe, I don't know. The only one that really starts to show any interest 28 days in is the vidIQ review score. I think there could be something there, and that's the one I'm going to pay slightly more attention to. OpusClip metrics, though, kind of, they feel like a school that is being judged on their exam grades. Everyone gets an A. That's not useful. Or, like, potentially as that way of doing it. Yeah, it's easy, it's simple to understand, but it isn't actually helpful to me. And I don't know if it's helpful to you. If it is, let me know in the comments. But for right now, I'm just going to probably ignore them and create the content that I want and I think is good and judge on that rather than the arbitrary metrics or the AI-generated metrics that these platforms are giving me. I think the real so what to all of this is don't buy into the AI sales hype. They are powerful tools. They are good tools. Like I said, I am still going to use them. But from analyzing this, I think it's clearer that I know what kind of content is performing better now. I'm still going to run the full test. I've got, like you maybe saw on the OpusClips dashboard or the vidIQ dashboard, I have more videos queued up where I have that kind of understanding of, am I ranty, am I conversational, am I provocative? And I want to do this again in 100 days, or at the end of the 100 days, I should say, because I think that will be interesting to see if my channel grows, if my platforms grow, and how do these metrics then compare with a slightly larger creator size? Hopefully, fingers crossed. But for right now, these tools, those metrics don't work for micro creators. Now, they might work for you, and if they do, like I said, let me know in the comments. But for me, they're not really telling me very much of use right now. Now, again, not to say I think people should use these tools. They are incredibly helpful, incredibly powerful, and I wouldn't have been able to create the content I am without their use. So if you want to explore VidIQ, OpusClip, I've dropped some links in the description. If you click on them, they help the channel out, and that'd be greatly appreciated. This isn't an ad for them. If it was, I probably wouldn't have said anything like super negative about them, which I didn't, just highlighted their flaws. I think it's important to be honest. But end of 28 days, am I happy with where I'm at? Yeah, it could have gone a lot worse. Could have gone better, sure. I've had some good video hits. I need to work on trying to convert those into followers, subscribers. But look, I'm doing this for fun, for my own enjoyment, and because I want to. My hope is that if I keep creating content like this and I keep creating content that people are engaging with, then that following will grow. I think I don't want to be told you're going to be a rock star, you're going to be spectacular, just to get a 50 view video and go, well, hang on, why is that one different when these platforms told me I was going to do just as well as the previous one? There's much more going on in the algorithm, and I think, like I said, it's important you know your content. So what's next? Well, I'm going to keep creating content. I've got videos in the pipeline, and at the end of 100 days, I want to redo this analysis. I want to see whether the Opus metrics or the VidIQ metrics get more accurate or are become more helpful. I think they are very useful platforms. I do think that. But I think these metrics could steer people in the wrong direction. And from everything I've learned so far, it's more important that you know your content and you know what you want to create. So if you found this useful, if you found this interesting, leave a like, leave a comment. If there's anything you want to discuss or ask questions, please do. I respond to comments all the time when I get them. And yeah, subscribe, do all those good stuff. It's very helpful for the channel. And I appreciate you getting to here if you got to here as well. Because again, a full completion is very helpful for the channel too. But with that, hopefully you come along for this journey. Hopefully you keep on seeing my content and you find it useful. But anyway, thanks for your time, and I'll see you in the next one.